I'll start.
So I'm James.
I'm John.
We're co-owners of Old Soldier. Old Soldier is a brand based on history and based on boating and based on our lifestyle and our experiences here on the Great South Bay of Long Island.
We went to elementary school together, and yeah, we've just always been friends. You know, we've always been close and we work well together creatively. So when we were talking about starting a brand, it just seemed right. A lot of it's based in our friendship and like we're super close, and I think that comes through in like the way that we work together.
It's funny, a lot of people actually ask us if we're brothers, like often, like more often than you think, and I think it just, we've been around each other so long, like we've been in my parents' basement together, like arguing about the screen press being like misaligned or like getting annoyed with each other because it's like too hot down there because there's no air conditioning. Yeah, and like again, just like learning and growing through all that stuff together. And I think like, yeah, not to get like too serious, but like a respect for each other as well, right? Like I respect your opinion, you respect my opinion. Like, you know, there would be no Old Soldier without me, and there would be no Old Soldier without John. It's very much a 1-2 punch. We're in the Old Soldier boathouse. It's on the Patchogue River of Long Island, New York. And it literally is a house over the water that houses a lot of our antiques, collections, you know, magazines and things that we've come across over the years. A lot of the beach salvage, so like a big hobby of ours is doing a lot of beach combing and kind of like looking, you know, for cool and interesting things that wash up on shore. And yeah, so it's just a great spot to come hang out, gather inspiration for the brand. It's something that's been being built over the past, you know, 15 some odd years.
I mean, it kind of also serves as like our clubhouse, our hangout. We've sold t-shirts out of the front gate before. It really plays a big part in the brand and the inspiration. Like if you look around here, a lot of the stuff that we use for designs comes from all the stuff.
Literally like stuff that you see on the walls here. So I think first and foremost, it all starts with my dad. So he's in the antique boat business. He's basically like a specialty mechanic that works on race boats from the early 1900s. So anything from like the classic Gold Cup racers of like the 1920s to the 1930s. And so it's funny because like when I was younger, it's like I didn't really understand that what he did was like really unique or frankly like really cool. And as I got older, I'm not very mechanically inclined as my family well knows, but I was able to like tap into that in a different way, and that was through my desire to start a brand, my desire to be creative, my desire to make t-shirts. And I think for John and I, like when we got together and we were talking about starting the brand, like there's a ton of nautical brands out there, right? Like quote unquote nautical. And it's just like you throw an anchor on a t-shirt or there's like a picture of a sailboat. And I think for us, like that's all well and good. And I'm not like knocking anybody else by any means, but I think for us, there was such like a genuineness to like the history and the heritage. That was something that we wanted to portray and come through in the designs. You know, one of the things I believe is like, if something is good, whether or not, you know, 2 people see it or 100 people see it, like eventually word will get out. For us, we were fortunate enough that a photographer friend of ours, shout out to Johnny, who actually works for NOAA, obviously had an in with Brendan, who is now the new head of J. Crew for men's, and he had kind of put us on his radar, and Brendan is also a local Long Island guy. I think he kind of just saw what we were doing and realized that it was true and it was real. And so we were fortunate enough that he kind of gave us a shot. But one of the shirts we did was like a nice back center print of a man named Garwood from like the early 1900s. I think it was like 1920. And he was actually like the first guy to hit 100 miles per hour on water. And so just tapping into things like that to really bring a genuineness and an authenticity to, you know, what we're doing and take it a step beyond just a logo or just a boat on a t-shirt.
On the site, I like the line, a yachtsman's company. What does that mean to y'all?
This is really focused on like yachting and yacht history. We really wanted to almost like bring that word back, right?
Back in the day, yachting used to be like, you used to put on your white pants and your white collared shirt and your hat and your nice shoes, and like everything was like proper and like done in a manner that I guess today you would look like maybe it was a little stuffy, but people knew what they were doing in boats. They knew how to run a boat. They knew who had the right of way. They knew which flag to fly. They knew what the lights meant at night. And I think, unfortunately, today you see a lot of people who just get in a boat and go, and they don't know what they're doing. And I think for us, to me, that word doesn't just mean we're boaters. It means we're on the water and we know what we're doing. And I don't even mean that in a way like we're wearing the right stuff or but it's like the proper protocol and, frankly, like safety.
And respect.
And respect is, I think, a good way to put it. And I think as we got older, we really just realized, you know, there wasn't anything that represented the way that we experienced, you know, living on the South Shore of Long Island and boating and everything that comes with that. And so we decided to, you know, start making t-shirts, start making designs, and slowly but surely have kind of built our way up over 10 years, which is pretty crazy to say. Inferring from our own experiences, like, right, like a long sleeve t-shirt is something super simple and it's like no duh, but it's like you actually need one of those, like I want to get out of the sun, or like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, basically we're making products that we want to use and need on the water.
And then I think like a more recent interest for us, frankly, is like getting more into like the vintage. Obviously, like vintage is like very in right now, but also is also like sustainability. And I think for us, like that's not like a joke or a trend. Like even just here, like we go to our beaches and like we see balloons washed up or like plastic on the beach, and like that's not what we want to see. And it's like at the end of the day, like how many t-shirts do you really need to make net new? It's like probably not that many, right? Like there's a ton of stuff already out there that's been made, and so we've actually throttled down the amount of like new designs that we'll do and have throttled up how much vintage we're selling.
Obviously we didn't invent this, but like we do the upcycle, so it's like we'll find vintage blanks or like, you know, old t-shirts and screen print our designs over them. Again,
that's what this is one of these actually.
We're not the first people to do this, but it's just another way to like
I mean, it makes a ton of sense, right? It's like this t-shirt was already made, it's still just as good, and I think a lot of the time it has more character too, right? It has a story and it has a history. It's a ferry. We have like two flags in our logo, which is actually from a life ring that my grandma painted downstairs. So we literally ripped them from the life ring, used them as our logo. So like a nice little like unique piece of like family heritage like ingrained into our logo. But similar to what we were talking about before in terms of like knowing what you were doing on the water back in the day, knowing the customs, like, you know, there was a time when there wasn't radio, right? Or you weren't able to communicate with another boat. And so the way that they did that was with flags, right? They did it in traditional vessels, they did it in military vessels, and so it can signal a lot of things. Like it can signal who you are, it can signal what you're doing on the boat. We should get it down here, it's still at my house, but there's literally a signal for cocktail hour. It's called the cocktail bridgie, and if you fly it,
come on down.
It means
have a drink.
come aboard for happy hour. So it's just ways to communicate and like indicate either like what you're doing, what club you're affiliated with, who's on the boat. There's different flags for different times of night, if you're at anchor, if you're underway. So yeah, a lot of meaning, and I think it's something we're proud to have, you know, not only a knowledge of, but like actually feature in the proper way in some of our work. The slow and steady natural growth for us has been what's working.
That's always been our biggest thing. It's like organic growth. So like we'll do events, but like we don't really like try to market to people necessarily. Like we'd rather people organically discover the brand. Just I feel like that's another thing that makes the brand like more authentic.
But there's definitely a vision in our heads of like what Old Soldier is beyond, you know, what does a t-shirt design look like, or what does like a nice cap look like. So if you can look at the brand and you recognize, hey, there's a cool story there, this brand is doing something that's genuine and true, I think like anybody who can appreciate that is, you know, we're happy to have as a customer.
A lot of this stuff is, if we didn't really like show it to people, it would be kind of be lost to history, whether it's local history like or just, you know, boating history in general, that, you know, it would be lost to time essentially.